Hi. Okay. Participants. Okay, I see you. Okay, I'm going to admit you. And then admit. Okay, and then let's see here. Okay. Do you want me to make you the host, Stephen?
Yeah, and now, if you make me host, I can make Sue. I can make Sue co-host, right? Or can you do that?
Okay, so you're the host now.
Okay. Okay, I see Sue. Make co-host. Okay. Yes. Okay. Is everybody coming in now?
See, let me make sure. Participants. Okay. I think. Okay. So you can see the waiting room now, right, Stephen?
Yes. No, I can't see the waiting room.
The PDA people should be there. They've been talking to me waiting.
Yeah. So I was found under participants, Stephen.
Yeah.
It says they're waiting to be let in, and Susie Harder is also waiting to be let in.
I'm making them all right now.
You found it, Stephen?
I did.
Okay. Are you good for me to get out of here?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, cool.
Hello, I'm Kathy.
We're getting there, Kathy.
Sorry about this pause. We had password problems today, so
All right.
we're good to go though for now.
Okay, I see John Cheek,
Hello.
who is one of our panelists, and Suzanne Malloy, who is also a panelist.
Hello?
Wendy needs, oh, I can admit her. Okay.
I've got it, Sue, for right now, okay? Okay, we have I'm not showing anybody in the waiting room yet.
All right.
Was the meeting supposed to start at 6:30? I see in my notice it said 6:30 and I thought it was going to be 7. So I'm sorry if I'm late.
No, we're getting started, Wendy. The meeting is at 7. We had it open at 6:30, but we've been having password problems between Jess and I. So we just started it. Sue Babavec, are you there somewhere?
Yes, I am.
So I'll take care of letting people in if you take care of moving with Kathy and stuff, okay?
All right. Kathy, were there some things that you and John and Suzanne wanted to do to double check audio and so forth as you had asked to?
Just to make sure, and I think it'll be fine if we can mute and unmute ourselves. So I'm going to mute myself and then.
Everybody should be able to do that, yes.
Good.
And at least of the ones who have signed on so far, they are pretty good at that by now. We've been doing that on our Wednesday check-in with the presbytery. So we sometimes forget and start talking, and then we realize that you have to, we see the mouths moving, and so you have to let us back in.
We've all been doing that. Yeah. So Suzanne,
at least this time I remembered to turn my audio on, Kathy. My
good job.
on.
I tell you, this technology is great until it's not.
Yes. And most of us did not grow up with it. Now, if this was our grandchildren
Right.
doing it, it'd be a piece of cake.
Exactly. Suzanne, can you just say hello so we can make sure we hear you?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And John?
Hi.
Hello. Nice to see you. Nice to hear you.
We have two Johns on. I think she was
Oh.
checking with Cheek, but that's
Oh, there's a third John behind me, but I don't think that one could talk.
Aw.
okay.
Yeah, this is John Cheek. I think everybody can hear.
Yes.
Very good.
Good.
There are 16 that are registered, so we should have some more coming very shortly.
Okay. Yeah, we're still a little bit before the hour, so we're good.
And I should also tell those of you that are not in Lincoln, if we disappear, because we have a storm moving in, a very fast moving 60 mile an hour storm with wind and a bit of rain. So if we get disconnected, just carry on.
All right. Well, of course, stay safe.
That just
Definitely.
went through here about an hour ago.
Did it, Wendy? Okay.
The sun's shining now.
It,
So it
it
didn't
doesn't
have-
look like, on my radar, Sue Babavec, it doesn't look like it's gonna be too serious.
Oh, that's good. Well, it said southern Lincoln, so you're more south than me, so I figured you'd be more than me.
Well, then there's more coming later, according to my weather app.
So, 'tis the season.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Sue.
We do need the rain, but I'd rather have it without the wind and anything else.
Yeah. I hear you.
Would you let
It is what
Kathleen
it
in,
is.
please? Thank you. Yes, we do need the, that is very true. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello.
Well, we don't need the rain, so I'll send you ours if it comes.
Oh, I wish you could. I wish you could. It never works that way, though.
It doesn't. It doesn't go that direction either. But
I was under the impression, at least from the weather, that we're for the year 2 inches under in drought almost. I wouldn't say drought, but I think it's providential that we don't have the rain, because with all of what we've been through, we sure don't need the floods like we had last spring.
no, definitely.
There's Heidi. Hi, Heidi. Hi, Jim. Yeah, one of our main topics, John Dooling, with the Nebraska VOAD calls has been, what do we do if we have floods again with the quarantine? Or what do we do with the tornado if we're supposed to be social distancing? So those are big realities that we've been talking about. Mhm.
Let's just pray that it's a minimal rain enough for the farmers to do what they need to do and not anything more.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I have 701.
And John is coming in. John's connecting here. And here comes Owen. Hi there, Owen. Hi, John. Can't see you, but I see you're here. All right, I would like for us to begin. I welcome you this evening. This is a venture that the disaster team of Homestead Presbytery wanted to make available for any who would be interested in being a part of an evening, a time of conversation, especially dealing with some self-care and some taking care of ourselves We clergy types and other church leaders tend to be always taking care of others and don't always take care of ourselves even when we know we should. I used to say when I was doing counseling full time that the longest 12 inches in the world is from the head to the heart. We know it, but we don't do it. So I would like to introduce Kathy Riley and ask her to introduce our two special guests. And then we will pray in case there's a couple more that still join us, if that would be okay. So introduce yourself, Kathy, and then Suzanne and John Cheek very quickly, however you want to do it. Maybe they introduce themselves. But we do welcome you three to Homestead Presbytery this evening.
Thank you so much. It is just a pleasure and a blessing to be with you. So I'll introduce myself and then have Suzanne and John introduce themselves. I am a Presbyterian minister and joined Presbyterian Disaster Assistance as a volunteer in 2012, and then joined staff in 2017 after that hurricane season of Maria and Harvey and Irma. And I am in the area of emotional and spiritual care. So I'm happy to be with you, and I'll ask Suzanne because I see her next in the row, and then John.
I'm Suzanne Malloy. I'm located in Santa Barbara, California, and I joined the National Response Team in 2010. John Dooling, you're working on the VOAD. I'm also working on the VOAD locally, but we don't have problems with the rain. We have problems with fires, wildfires. So that's what our contingency is.
Thanks, Suzanne.
John.
Hi, I'm John Cheek, and I serve a church on the southwest side of Tucson. I joined the National Response Team the year between Suzanne and Kathy, and it's a real joy to be with you. Thank you for inviting us to be with you.
You're all very welcome, and we are glad you are here. I will open us with prayer because I didn't ask anybody ahead of time to do so, and I know any of you are capable of doing it, but I will do so this evening. So let us pray. Oh God, who is the God of all times, whether it is of viruses or floods, of fires or hurricanes, or even the good, beautiful days with sun shining like it's doing in Gresham right now. We thank you, O Lord, that you not only have sustained us, but you will sustain us, and that you give us wisdom and wise individuals to guide us in times of making sure that we don't forget to care for ourselves. We would ask, O Lord, that as we gather this evening, each of us would hear whatever it is that we particularly are needing to hear. Bless our speakers and bless each participant who has taken the time this evening to join us as a part of Homestead's leadership. We pray this all in Jesus, our Savior's name. Amen.
Amen.
Kathy, the floor is yours. And if you haven't, would you all mute yourself unless you're talking, just to avoid critters, children, telephones, whatever else from interfering?
Thank you, Sue. Well, I do again, thank you for having us with you. And I'm gonna kind of start us off just by mentioning some resources that you probably have seen, and some I know you've seen because they're in your own presbytery in this time of COVID-19. And then we'll start with a very simple relaxation exercise and move into some presentation. We're gonna always be happy to take questions that you put in the chat box. And since there's a nice number, if it turns out you'd rather speak your question, let us know that maybe in the chat box, and we'll be happy to just dialogue with you and share some information as well. So resource-wise, I've looked at your Presbytery website. I see how much you are doing within the Presbytery and heard a little bit about that when we had our planning call. So I know that you're doing a lot to support each other and to get information out and to have webinars together. So that's fabulous. And I'm gonna guess that you've seen the PCUSA website with the big banner, and they're updating that regularly. So you can just look, if you've looked at it a lot, just look for the red ink, and that will tell you the stuff that's new. So I know they are working on that. PDA, of course, has a couple special places for COVID-19 on our website. There are grants available, as you know. We also have webinars, a formal webinar in addition to this panel. Those are posted online. We also have a page for emotional spiritual care resources linked to the PDA page. So those are some good resources. If you haven't seen the Mental Health Ministries page of PCUSA, you may want to take a look at that. It also has good resources for pastors, for church members, for families. So a lot of good links there on the Mental Health Ministries page. And I just want to say at this point, a big thank you to you, as we know that you support PDA in a number of ways, and of course, One Great Hour of Sharing, which supports our work as well as the work of self-development of peoples and the Presbyterian Hunger Program. So thank you for your support, and it is, especially in these times, so good to be part of a connectional church. So we thank you for that. So I want to just start us by doing a very simple breathing exercise that can help get us into a more relaxed state. And it's something that is easy to do and we often start with. And it's just called Observe Your Breath. And it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to invite us all to just take in and out 3 or 4 or 5 breaths, depending on how quickly you breathe in and out. Don't try to control it or change it. Just notice your breathing, what it feels like, perhaps what it sounds like as you breathe in and out. And I'm going to pause for myself to take a few breaths and hope you do the same. And then I'll reconvene us together. So just observe and notice your breath. I hope you were able just to notice your breathing. It might have slowed down, it might not have. The important thing is just that focusing and mindfulness on breath can help us get to a more relaxed state when we just find ourselves just getting a little caught up in stress or tension. We are absolutely committed to resilience work and to self-care in PDA. And so we'll spend some time talking about and sharing some of our own tools and exercises this evening. One of our guidelines is we never share tools in teaching that we don't use ourselves. So you'll know that whatever we talk about are things that Suzanne and John and I do as a matter of just a way of life for ourselves. So I'm going to invite Suzanne to begin by just giving a kind of overview of the sort of key elements of resilience and self-care that we focus on.
Thanks, Kathy. As part of our daily work, many of us are listening with compassion and empathy to other people's difficult experiences, and listening to 1 or 2 or just a few stories is really manageable. But then when we hear so many stories day after day, we start to absorb them, and our reactions begin to reflect the stress of others. And you add to that, these days, we find ourselves in situations that we haven't had to deal with before. We're conducting virtual worship, we're providing virtual pastoral care, and some of us are possibly conducting virtual memorial services or other types of celebrations. And we can best do all these things when we are resilient, when we're able to bounce back from difficult times and to stay flexible and functional when we're right in the middle of stress. And so one component of resilience is self-care, and along with that is self-regulation. In order to relax our bodies in stressful situations, we have to make use of a variety of relaxation tools. Actually, Kathy just led us in one. It's very relaxing to focus on that breath. And in order to be fully present, we can make use of grounding tools. That breathing exercise is also a grounding. We can take time for important activities that we enjoy, but right now we may be neglecting them, or we may have more time for them right now, like taking time off for a rest, for hobbies and meals, and limiting social media. That's a difficult thing for a lot of people right now. Diet, exercise, adequate sleep, those are all key activities in combating stress. So we know that you're all busy, that you're probably extra busy as you're reinventing how you're serving. And a second component of resilience is taking the time to think about what we find meaningful in our work. We feel a strong commitment to the work we do, and it reflects what we value in life. A third component of resilience is telling our stories. Remembering and telling the important stories of our life are important tools that can be learned and practiced. And this helps us function a whole lot better in times of stress and throughout our lives. A fourth component of resilience is fostering positive relationships. For good mental health and for resilience, it's really helpful to have one or more people in our lives who will really listen to us. We practice the ministry of presence by listening to others, and telling our own story about what we're going through can also be really beneficial to us. We also need to make time for the positive relationships, the life-giving relationships in our lives. And it's our positive relationships that best help us continue to do the good work that is really fulfilling, and to remain calm and compassionate throughout our days. Our fifth component of resilience is spiritual practice. And this means prioritizing our devotional and prayer lives, and reserving time for activities that nurture our inner life, such as time with nature or in meditation. Those of us who serve may feel like we're too busy or preoccupied to engage in our usual spiritual practices, yet this area is so important, especially now. We have to keep up with those, especially regarding practicing gratitude. Grateful people are so much less likely to suffer burnout. In knowing and practicing all of these components that I've just mentioned, you can strengthen your ability to sustain calm effectiveness in times of stress, and in your times of relaxation. Also, knowing where we are on the disaster timeline could be really helpful. And I'm thinking that, John, you can help us understand that.
So I'm aware that you are not strangers to disaster. I'm aware that you have experienced disaster. What I'm going to talk about here is a framework that may help to give language to some of the things that you've experienced and that you've observed. I would like for you to either in your mind or on paper draw a horizontal line and a vertical line. It's a simple graph. The horizontal axis represents time running from the left just a little while ago or now, running into the future to the right. The vertical axis has to do with emotional well-being, or a sense of emotional well-being. When a disaster happens, this may seem counterintuitive, but every one of you has seen it. In the immediate aftermath of a disaster, that sense of emotional well-being tends to go up, and people are feeling they're going to pull together. There is a sense of community. There is a sense that we're going to get through this together, and we're going to be stronger than ever. In the case of the theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado, I was on the ground in Denver 15 hours after the shooting, and I was already seeing signs that said Aurora strong. This is an indicator of this heroic phase, and it feels good, and everybody is pulling together. That phase does not last, and what it's followed by is just a precipitous emotional drop. And that's a drop. I don't know if any of you all are skiers. I'm not. But this is a slope so steep that you would never, ever undertake skiing it. And that slope is absolutely real. I am on that slope now with respect to this particular disaster. I have been through the heroic phase where we are saying in this presbytery, we're going to learn new things, we're going to do new things, we're going to meet this disaster, and we're going to come out of it great. This is such a period of creativity, and I'm not there anymore. I'm tired, and I miss my congregation. And I miss seeing my session. Now we do session meetings by Zoom. I'm tired. I'm on that slope. The good news is that on that slope, there is a bottom. It doesn't just keep going forever. The tough news is that the bottom is pretty low. And the journey back to the new normal, that journey up this slope, back to whatever normal was before or to what the new normal will be, is slow, and it's not steady. The precipitous drop that I'm on, and some of you are on, and some of you are going to be on, is fairly straight and fairly steep. The way back is slower. It is a less steep angle, and it is filled with ups and downs. There is an end to it. There is a new normal, and we will be healthy in that. But it's work to get there. And so I hope that you will be able to look at past disasters that you have been through and past disasters that you have seen your communities and your churches go through. And I hope that this will be beneficial to you in terms of seeing, yeah, this is where I am. And I have seen this before, and I know that it's going to be okay. I find knowing where I am in this disaster timeline is helpful. The first time I did this webinar, somebody asked, so John, what can you do when you're on that slope? And so what I'm going to share with you is an exercise. Suzanne mentioned a few minutes ago, grounding. I'm going to share with you a grounding exercise that I have been doing, knowing where I am in this disaster timeline. And I'm going to do it in my own context. I'm in my church office in an empty church building. It's empty every day. And so I'm going to do the exercise relative to my context, but I invite you to join me. And so I'm going to close my eyes. You're welcome to as well if you want to. And as I sit here with my feet flat on the floor and my hands in my lap, I'm aware of the skin on the sole of my foot. I'm aware of the skin on the soles of both feet, and I can feel where that skin touches the cloth of my socks. And I'm in contact with my socks. And I am also in contact with the inner surface of my shoes. It's a little bit cushiony, a little bit soft, and I'm in contact with it. And I'm aware of the outer sole of my shoes, and it's harder. And my shoes are resting on a carpet, and by way of my socks and my shoes, I'm in touch with the carpet. I'm connected with the carpet. And that carpet rests on a carpet pad. And that carpet pad, in turn, rests on a concrete slab. And I am in connection with that concrete slab by way of my soles and my socks and my shoes and the carpet and the pad. And that slab rests on the desert floor. It rests on the earth which God created and called it good. and I am in connection with the earth itself, and I am grounded to the earth itself. And I am aware of the skin on the palms of my hands as they rest on my slacks. And beneath my slacks, there is skin, muscle, bone, muscle, skin, and slacks. And I am in contact with all of that. And my legs are resting on the seat of a chair, and that's cushiony, and it gives. But the legs of the chair are strong and solid and reliable, and they rest on the carpet. And the carpet rests on the pad, and the pad rests on that concrete slab, which in turn rests on the floor of the desert, millions and millions and millions of years old, reliable, trustworthy, created by God, and called good. And I'm aware of the skin of my back, and I feel where the skin of my back interacts with my shirt and the cushion of the chair. The cushion is soft, the back of the chair is soft, but the legs are strong and they rest on the carpet and on the pad and on the concrete slab. And I am grounded. All of my being is grounded on this desert floor, this good earth, which is created by God. And I can rest and I can be at peace in this grounding. And I would invite you to feel that, and I would invite you to come back to me. I have been doing this a lot. This is my go-to exercise. And I find that all I have to do to reach that place of quiet is to just become aware of the soles of my feet. And that starts the cascade that ends up in this place of peace and of assurance and grounding. So I would encourage you to try that, to see if that works for you. And if it does, this may be a time when you need to practice that. I encourage you to practice it every day, or whatever technique works for you, to practice every day, not only when you're stressed, because the more you practice, the more available this will be to you when you need it. Thank you all.
Thank you, John. Yeah, that is one that I know when people do it regularly, as John said, that's a nice long exercise that's good to do when you can. And sometimes just that first few steps to yourself sets off as John said, a cascade of relaxation. I want to mention a couple things, and one is that before we end our time, I'll put my email in the chat box, and Sue and Stephen both have it as well. We have a handout with a description of a lot of the tools that we're teaching this evening and that we regularly teach. And you can go to our website or email me and get that handout if you'd like to have it, so that you can have those resources at your fingertips. And we encourage you to do that. So I'll make sure that I get that in the chat box. With grounding, there are a number of grounding tools and exercises, and the one John has done is a beautiful one. There are a couple others that can be done kind of in the moment. So if you're sitting in a Zoom meeting and find yourself maybe spacing out a little bit, maybe your attention is wandering, maybe stress is causing some tension, you can do a fairly quick and unobtrusive grounding exercise in a couple different ways, and I'm going to mention those. One is just to pick up something that's got some texture or maybe pointiness to it. So I just picked up a little tiny binder clip that I've got on my portable desk. It could be a pen cap, it could be a coin, something you have in your pocket. Touching it, holding it, noticing that it's sharp or it's round or it's soft or it's smooth, just focusing in for a very short period of time on something that you can touch and hold is a really good grounding exercise for a lot of people. And it can just kind of bring back your focus and help you feel more like where you want to be, and okay, I'm kind of back, I'm ready, and then move on to your next thing. So that's a pretty common grounding tool that I use, lots of folks use. One that I hear a lot, and I've done it recently, is to look around the room where you are. If you have a lot of different colors, just notice the colors of the room, notice the objects. If you've got pictures, I happen to be staring at pictures of my daughter and son from their high school pictures. That's grounding for me, just to kind of take me off whatever the moment is that might be stressful, and be mindful and think about something different. So a lot of different ways to ground and reduce some stress reactions and responsivity in the moment, as we've just been describing. So you'll surely be able to see some of those in our handout, and if you just look it up on the internet, you'll see more that may work for you for grounding and just starting that relaxation response and getting us back to a place where we're just kind of feeling a little bit better and functioning a little bit better in the moment. I don't see any questions in the chat box yet, so we'll continue. And Suzanne, I'm gonna ask if you would like to share some thoughts that we've talked about with sort of coping ahead and looking ahead to some challenges that we know are upon us or coming with this COVID-19 situation.
I had to remember to unmute. My challenge has been getting used to the Zoom meetings, but I do have much more appreciation for them. Initially, I had resentment for them, but I've been seeing with the Zoom meetings how effective they are and how connecting they can be. And so we have to look at how do we move ahead in our ministries. In churches, are we going to be continuing live streaming? Are we going to continue with our digital worship, where we give people the opportunity to watch the services that may have been recorded in all of our individuals' homes? In the future, what do we do for administering sacraments and meeting community needs as they change? I know in my community, as in most communities, the way that we do pastoral visits has completely changed. I'm a hospital chaplain. I'm also a parish associate at my church. But as a hospital chaplain, I don't see patients' families anymore, except for in extreme circumstances, an end of life, or when an important decision, which possibly involves end of life, needs to be made. And so what happens is I'm expected to spend a lot more time with patients. However, the ministers and the priests who are asked to come in don't have that opportunity to come in often. They may be able to come in, a priest might be able to come in to administer last rites. We call it now the sacrament of the sick, but that might not be able to happen. And so a lot of the work I'm doing now is facilitating patient family visits with an iPad. It's the same thing for our ministers, is we may be doing Zoom meetings to provide spiritual care. It could just be FaceTime or Skype or just phone calls. It may be going to somebody's home and putting up signs in the window if they can't hear us, if they're having issues with their hearing. So in terms of just our pastoral care, that has changed already. And how do we move forward from this? How do we stay connected with our members and our colleagues? And how do we, I think what's most important is how do we stay connected with God? How do we stay connected with ourselves? You've tried a few exercises that kind of ground you back to where you are. They're so important to practice. When we start moving towards doing worship again, what is that going to look like? I don't think any of us really know. We can envision, but we need to start planning. We need to start talking about how we're going to be doing this, having those discussions with our sessions, and having those discussions with our congregants. How do we maintain the 6-foot social distance space in the sanctuary? Not only just for the congregants, but how do we do that with the worship leaders? How many numbers are we going to have allowed to be present for life rituals such as weddings or memorials, Bible studies and adult ed? Will we continue to do those remotely? Or are we going to limit the number of people who can get together? Session meetings, will we just continue to do this? Or for how long will we continue to do this remotely? When we have renters in the church, how do we make sure that they're observing any kind of guidelines when they're there? And how do we update our agreements? How do we encourage the high risk congregants to stay home? How do we do that and still fulfill their spiritual needs? Are you going to require masks in church? Are you going to permit singing? Because we know that singing is a hazard because of that expelling of breath. And if we're going to be allowing singing, then are we going to take all the hymn books out so people aren't touching all the papers and the pages and then leaving them behind? Do we take them out of the pews and then have everything printed in the bulletins? How do we pass the peace? I think I've heard of many congregations that are doing things differently. In my congregation, we put our hands on our heart and we just say the peace of Christ be with you and also with you. And so it's a heart-to-heart motion. Online VBS this summer, are we going to have Vacation Bible Study? Or is that going to be canceled? How are you going to do mission trips? How do we do mission trips? Maybe we're going to be just doing local. I know our local food bank is in great need of volunteers, but how do you travel when perhaps our denomination still is not permitting the travel? Are we sanitizing our workspaces? Are we posting in church? Are we posting with big signs, the safety requirements? Are we considering offering multiple services? Have we even checked with our insurance about when we can resume our worship service? And something that's just a really sticky is if one of us or one of us on staff, or if one of our congregants tests positive for COVID, how do we notify others while maintaining that person's privacy? So we need to all have these conversations. How do we maintain privacy, but do the kind of work we need to ensure everybody's health? And another sticky issue, how do you cap attendance when people are coming in? Are you going to refer them over to the fellowship hall where they now watch a live stream? These are all things that we need to be considering, and it's a lot of work to go through these type of things because we have to involve others in our planning. But in involving others in our planning, what we're doing is we're still maintaining community. And so I encourage you to think about these things, start engaging in those conversations, and all the while keep checking in with yourself and see what is feeling right for you and what are you grappling with. And sometimes it's okay to share the difficulties that you're having with others. When somebody says, I don't like this, that's an authentic statement, and you can say, I don't like it either. So those are my thoughts in terms of moving forward and coping ahead. Thanks,
Suzanne. Yeah, lots to think about. And I noticed that Jim Splitt has put out some guidance from CDC for community organizations and churches. They've had that posted for a while, and I expect they'll continue to update it in this sort of, well, I think we're all expecting to be a stop and a start and a regroup and start again kind of situation. And I think what resonates with a lot of us is for pastors and faith leaders and elders who are in decision-making roles to really do spend some time reflecting on what's the guidance from the government, what's the guidance from local government, what's the guidance from presbytery, and then what am I comfortable with, and being able to test that out, to check it out, to talk with others about it is going to be important, because there's all those questions and we can tackle them. But having our own sense of grounding of this is what seems to make the most sense to me, and then having someone or one or two someones that we can talk to in a confidential and honest way about where we are with the next steps is going to be, I think, really crucial. And I'm going to invite John, if you would, to talk about intentional listening partners as kind of a follow-up to where we are, and then we'll look at some questions in the chat box again.
Sure. And this comes from the person whom I am, the person whom God has created me to be. I am a person who is driven by relationship. Relationship is really important to me. Kathy and Suzanne know that. John Ashley, who's on this call, knew me when he was serving in Tucson. This is not a surprise to them. So this piece comes out of that. For me, it's critically important for me to have somebody that I can be talking to, that I can talk to regularly and say, this is how I feel like I'm doing. This is how I'm planning on functioning. This is how I'm planning on conducting myself. And to have someone whom I can trust who will say, John, how are you doing? How are you doing with that? You were going to journal gratitude. How are you doing with that? How are you feeling about this and that? And I have a person like that in this presbytery. She serves a church here in Tucson, and she is somebody who is committed to listening to me, to talking to me, to hearing my concerns, to not judging what my concerns are. I encourage you, if you don't already have someone in that role, I encourage you to find somebody who will help you in a gracious way and in a caring way to stay accountable to the things that you are working to do and be during this season that's completely new to all of us. Not one of us here has a playbook for how to lead through this kind of a season in our lives. My advice is that this should not be a spouse or partner. My own experience has been that being married is hard enough without adding this burden to it. And so my recommendation to you is to make an agreement with somebody who will be prepared to listen, who will be prepared to help you with the things that you have made commitments to do, and who will say to you, if you're saying, you know, I had every intention of going for a walk every day, and I haven't gone on a walk once since we talked last time, the person will say, that's okay. Are you planning on taking a walk tomorrow? You can start again. You get a fresh start. So for a person like me, this is a critical need. I think for most of us, it's really beneficial to have somebody who is going to serve in this role. And I think it's important for each of us to also be thinking, for whom can I serve in that role? It may be the same person, or it may be somebody different. I may talk to somebody and some other person may be talking to me. I think this is critically important, even if you're not wired exactly the way I am.
Thanks, John. Yeah, the intentional listening partner is someone that a lot of us in PDA use We also get care buddies when we're deployed, someone who'll just be in touch with us while we're deployed. But the intentional listening partner, you know, I've got a couple, and they tend to be people that are honest and who I know will be honest with me, and also keep everything I say confidential. And I noticed that John Dooling mentioned possibly a spiritual director who could fill that role. And that certainly could be a strong possibility for those of you that either have a spiritual director or can find one. When the COVID stuff first started, we at PDA, especially Jim Kirk and I, had a lot of conversations about, and we were getting requests and calls about, what can we do for spiritual direction and spiritual assistance during this time, just kind of one-to-one. And what we found as we were thinking and talking about it is, and you may have done this as well, I know that your committee has been, disaster committee's been calling pastors, but you know, retired pastors in presbyteries were offering to serve as you know, spiritual supports for people who were actively serving in churches. And I think that's another model, especially as we get into this next phase, whatever it looks like, having a trusted colleague who's been down that road to say, as Sue mentioned in her comment, perhaps as we step back into opening up churches, we'll surely have some in our congregations who are pushing and ready and eager, and they want to get back to face-to-face contact. And our instincts may be saying, I don't know yet. And so having someone that we can talk with about those things that's not part of our congregation, not someone we live with, I think that intentional listening partner can be really helpful. And you may have seen this already, lots of folks out there willing to serve pastors and church leaders in that capacity, and to listen and to just be an ear, a listening ear for this. And I want to just say one thing, and then see if Suzanne and John want to add something, and I'll take a look at the chat room again. That is that you know, as we think about what's coming next, remembering that holding off on personal physical contact, holding off on worship together, having some of these weird restrictions like face masks in worship, or not singing hymns or not using hymnals. There was someone in the Mental Health Network who framed it as a sacramental gift and offering that's a sacrifice for us, perhaps, to not have the physical contact, to not sing the hymns, that we're offering to others, because we don't know if we're carrying the COVID virus. And while it's hard and it's difficult, what we're offering to vulnerable others is our distance and our face mask and perhaps gloves. So that can be a reframing that I think we can use. I found it immensely helpful in my own frustrations with, I can't see my kids and I can't, you know, go visit my friends. Just, it's a gift, it's a sacrament, it's an offering that I can give to them. So I'm gonna see if John and Suzanne want to add anything to where we've been, and I'll take a look at the chat room. Suzanne, you're still muted.
There we go. I really like Sue's question about what ideas do you have for a consideration of how we slow people down to address them when everybody wants to get back together. It was such a great question, because so many people have felt like they've been slowed down already, and they are, you know, they're at that starting, at that starting line, and they're just waiting for the pistol to go off, and so they can be racing ahead again. And what you said, Kathy, is about talking about the gift of simply being present. To me, that is huge. And the gift of seeing somebody at a distance, the gift of one element at a time. I really like that idea of framing it that way.
John, did you want to add anything before I move to these couple questions and comments?
No, I think you two have covered it really well. Thank you, though.
Okay. So I'm looking at the comment, and I imagine most of you can see this if you click on the chat that Jim Splitt mentioned about a task force developed within a congregation to come up with a plan. So using all the information that Suzanne kind of referred to, the CDC guidelines, local health department, local government in Kentucky where I live, our governor is really kind of calling the shots, and we're following his guidelines that are typically right in concert with national guidelines. Church insurance providers are going to be good to check in. So having a task force just sounds like a fabulous idea, especially because then it doesn't fall just to the faith leaders, might extend beyond the elders or on session. And there's a mention here of sending a questionnaire to the congregation to poll members on moving forward, which I'm smiling because I always think of those things as we'd like to know what you're thinking, but it doesn't necessarily mean we'll do what you're saying. So it's good to know where people are, recognizing that the congregation really can't make the decision that some small group in the church, will need to. So I see Sue Babovic mentioned something that I've seen as well. 24 questions for churches need to answer before they can open up again. And that's a really good document. And Sue said that she can share it, and I've got it in my email. She's holding it up there. It's a good document. So, just like when we started with this whole COVID situation, resources are just pouring out. And now that we're taking these next steps, again, lots of resources again on the PCUSA page and other places. So what we've been saying all along in the PCUSA and everywhere is we're in this together. We're walking this walk together. We're stumbling together because, just John said, there's no blueprint, there's no plan. So I know we're coming to about 10 minutes and we're not quite ready to close, but I do want to say something that all of us in PDA on our panels have been saying, which is to remember to treat yourselves as faith leaders with kindness, with compassion, with patience, recognizing that we're going to stumble and make mistakes. I've made them along this way and had to stop myself and say, okay, it's all right. I messed up and now I need to move on. I just know, without even knowing most of you, that you are kind and compassionate people to others, and you offer forgiveness and compassion to them. And we just really think it's a good reminder to ourselves to show that to ourselves. And when things don't go well, when we make mistakes, to be compassionate and kind and forgiving to ourselves. And sometimes we need someone else to say that to us. So that intentional listening partner, that spiritual director, that good friend can remind us to ease up on ourselves and to recognize that, missteps are going to happen because no one knows where we're going. So I just want us to remind us of that, because it's part of resilience. It's part of self-care. It's part of bouncing back from difficult circumstances, is being kind and compassionate to ourselves. And Suzanne, I'm looking at you because I thought you were going to say something. So I'm going to offer that if you did want to say something at that point. Okay.
Which Suzanne?
Suzanne Malloy.
Oh, no, I'm good. Actually,
Okay.
I was smiling because my dog started shaking and I remembered I had to put myself back on mute.
Gotcha.
Suzanne, I usually go by Susie, so
Oh, okay.
it's okay.
Gotcha.
That's all right. I do answer to Suzanne occasionally.
And I see that, Susie, you wrote, mistakes are not a bad thing. They're an opportunity to improve and do better next time.
Absolutely. I was a quality improvement nurse consultant for several years, and that was my mantra to everybody. If it's a mistake, it's okay. What are we going to learn from it? And that's the same with anything. So remember that, everybody.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat room. So I would like to offer one more breathing exercise that may end up taking us close to the end of our time together. One of the things that we know about good, resilient body and brain functioning is that getting more oxygen to our brain and regulating our breathing are just really crucial steps. And so I'm going to teach you a tool, share with you a tool that you may already know. It's called the 478 breathing tool. It is my go-to tool for relaxation. And so I'm going to teach that and have us kind of practice it together. It doesn't take very long, and we'll do it. I'll tell you how it works. I'll take you through it once with my counting out, and then I'll give you a chance to practice it at your own pace while I do it as well. And then we'll before we close, John's going to say just a bit more about gratitude and how that can function in our lives. So 478 breathing, the way it works is you close your mouth and put your tongue towards the top of your mouth and breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. You hold for a count of 7, and then you exhale for a count of 8, so that you're exhaling for a longer time and more fully than you inhaled. So 4 to inhale, 7 to hold, 8 to exhale. When we do this, we practice it for 4 of those breath cycles and then go back to breathing normally. So we'll do it for 1 breath cycle, and I will do the counting, and then I'll stop and give you a chance to do it at your own pace. So let's just settle comfortably wherever you're settled, and let's give this a try. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I'm going to mute myself, but I'm going to take myself through one, and I invite you to do the same. 4, 7, 8. Okay. I hope you had a chance to get through 1 breath cycle. Like all of our tools, we encourage you to try it out, practice it. It's in the handout that we'll get to if you'd like it. Practice it once or twice a day. I can tell you, and research tells us, that this is a very helpful relaxation exercise to do when you're trying to fall asleep, if that's a problem, which is not for me, but I wake up at some 2, 3, 4 in the morning and the thoughts start racing. And I do this breathing exercise, and it almost always helps me fall asleep. And in fact, sometimes I never get to the 4th cycle because I've fallen asleep. So I encourage you to see if that works for you. It's something you can do anytime during the day, and just engage your mindfulness and engage some more more oxygen going to your brain. So 478 has been out there and continues to be a good tool for relaxation. So I'm going to invite John to say a word about gratitude, to follow up on some of the things that Suzanne introduced us to in the beginning. So go ahead, John.
Well, this gratitude thing is a little bit new to me. And I think if you had asked me 6 months ago, so John, are you grateful? I would say, yeah, whatever. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my church. I'm grateful for my presbytery. I'm grateful for my friends. Yeah, whatever. But with Kathy's urging, I have been delving more into the idea of gratitude. I've begun to keep a gratitude journal, and I work to every day record 3 things for which I'm specifically grateful. And that's required me to slow down. It's required me to think with more intentionality about this. It's required me to look in my backyard. We're in the desert here, and most of us have desert kinds of plants, but I have some Marguerite daisies, beautiful yellow daisies that are just bright and vivid. I realized yesterday I'm really grateful for those. And there is a plant called penstemon, which a lot of people grow here in the spring. Beautiful pink blossoms. And it occurred to me that I was grateful for that. And we have a tree that is called Indian rosewood. And it, oddly, in the morning and in the evening, right before sundown, the sun reflects off of these leaves in an incredibly beautiful way. And it makes me want to sit and look at this sunlight reflected in these patterns. And so the practice of making sure that I'm practicing gratitude has helped me to slow down and to pay attention and to be aware. And this is a time when there is a real risk for us to make ourselves really busy. So I'm not crazy about little expressions like attitude of gratitude. I'm not, that kind of thing doesn't touch me in the way it does some other people. But the practice of saying, John, what are you truly grateful for today? I'm always grateful for my wife. I'm always grateful for my children. I'm always grateful for my grandchildren. But am I thinking about that in a conscious way? And am I articulating it? And am I writing it down so that it is coming out of my body and into some kind of a written form that I can see? So I'm going to encourage, if you don't have some kind of ongoing practice of gratitude, that you develop it. And if you're new at that, you'll be right where I am, and that will make me feel better. So thank you. I am grateful to all of you for letting me have this time with you. It has been a real blessing to be with you, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Thank you all.
Thank you, John. And I will say that I have had gratitude practices, but in this COVID time, I've actually finally gotten an app that reminds me. I set the time for me, it's 10 o'clock because I'm a night person, every night. What are you grateful for? And it'll have a different prompt. And sometimes I write it in my phone and sometimes I just think it, but it's a really good app and there's lots of them out there. So I encourage you to think about whether that's something you want to see about introducing into your life. So I know we're right at 8 o'clock. We're on, I think, 3 different time zones here together. Mm-hmm. So it's 9 my time, 8 yours, and I think what, 7 for John and Suzanne? 6. So anyway, I want to give Suzanne a chance to just say whatever she'd like to say, and then we will turn it over to Sue and Stephen and close this out.
Well, all I want to do from my heart is to say the peace of Christ be with all of you.
Amen.
And also with you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, both the ones that call Homestead home right now and those of you that have joined us for this evening. I'm sure these conversations will be continuing. I like Jim's comment. It was his 4th Zoom of the day, and it was a great way to end the day. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Any last comment from anyone else that's been on the call? Some of you have been unusually quiet, but I know you were being thoughtful. Then Steve is going to close us with prayer, and don't forget we have our 1 o'clock meeting tomorrow for any that want to be a part of it on Zoom as well. Thank you all very much, PDA people. Thank you. John Derlin, I see your hand up.
Yeah, for tomorrow, 1 o'clock, is there a registration? I didn't see any.
It's the same one as it is every week, so use last week's.
Okay.
You need me to send it to you?
Please do.
Okay, I'll send it to you again.
Thank you.
It's also available on the website, John. Homestead Pressures website. Same right. Link. Right. Let me add my words of thanks, Kathy, John, and Suzanne. This has been, I was not sure how I was going to get through this last Zooming myself, but it's been incredibly helpful and a reminder of many things. And I want to check and make sure we've been recording this. Kathy, is it possible that we can share that with others in the press release, the recording? Or do you all prefer not for that to happen?
No, I think if you'd like to share it, I don't think anything confidential has been shared by anyone. So I think it's fine. That'll be your call if you'd like to.
Okay, great, thank you. And John, as you talked about giving thanks, I was reminded of Diana Butler Bass's book on great Thanksgiving, or I forget the title of it, but that just brought it back for me. And so let's offer our words of thanks to God for this time together. Loving and gracious God, we know that things are changing by the minute around us, and sometimes by the seconds. But we give thanks that you are with us and that you walk with us through all of this, and that you guide us, give us the wisdom that we need and the patience that we really need. Please be with these leaders from PDA and these leaders in Homestead Presbytery as we go about the business of ministry day in and day out. Give us the ability to give thanks for the little things as well as the big things in our lives, to remember those things that we forget about giving things for, but to also give thanks for those that we're so close to that we forget about as well. We thank you for this time. Give us peace this evening so that we might serve you a new day tomorrow. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you all.
Thank you.
Peace.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Night.